highest ranks and the unpaid comedians here tonight, so it's going to be a good show. Okay, we had a big week, a lot happening. I don't know how many of you, anybody arrived this week? Are you all long-timers? You're all long-timers. Okay, anyway, there was a big fog out at the airport. You guys saw this, 6 hours? Anybody see this? Okay, so what happened was our third world airport didn't function, and so we had our first world negotiator came in, Ofer Amy, and he negotiated with the fog, and 6 hours later we had all these planes back going, right? So, you know, he's a first world type, okay? I didn't know how many of you know him. Anybody know here know Ofer Amy is? You know. He called Barak, they're both in the Labor Party, and he called him an ahval, right? Which is a general translation, is a jerk, okay? So the question is Ehud Barak really a jerk? Okay, anyone have any ideas? Well, you know, if you were the minister of this, minister, and you had an illegal foreign worker, right? Is that good behavior? I mean, or if you headed the Workers' Party and you lived in the most expensive building in Israel, you know, or if you got in trouble with amutot with your daughters, or your second wife got into legal scams, is this really what a jerk is all about? Or even more importantly, if you got into a tiff with his chief of staff, right, over this document, right? Anybody know Gabi Ashkenazi is out there? So Gabi Ashkenazi is getting ready to go into politics also, right? So his concern is how is he going to do the most damage to Ehud Barak, okay? So they have, he's there on the news, and they show him in Machane Yehuda, right? He's going from booth to booth, finding out where can you buy a forged document for a shekel, you know. This is a guy who really knows what's going on, okay? And he is going to join politics, and he expects that everything is going to go well because he's had a long experience of judicial commissions and inquiries asking him where he's going. This week was a big week in the Chabad world. Here's the picture, right? You guys have seen this picture. You all know what it is. It's the 3,000. Yeah, there'll be a close-up on YouTube. These are the 3,000 emissaries, right? Who were gathered in Brooklyn, right? Okay, so what's notable about this? This guy out here is asking for a return trip to Senegal. He said, you know, don't take Nambia. The guy over here, he's in a little stool because he's from Turkey, and they want to sit him in the corner. And of course, each one of these guys has asked the photographer if he's late film today. And no, it's 1,000 times I haven't done it. But whatever, they had a good time. And of course, the Israeli walking by says, yo, 3,000 shlichim and not a single slice of pizza. Whatever. That was a good time. Great, good time. Right, actually, as David said, Pamela Anderson was here, and she went to the Kotel, right? And the question is, why did she go to the Kotel? And the answer was not for the quick photo op, because she wanted to get away from the groping Israeli guys, right? And that was the only spot where she found a little bit of peace and quiet. And this week in the news was Yigal Amir, right? Yigal Amir, the assassinator of Robin. Oh, there you go. All this news. Anyway, so he's getting a cellmate, right? Because he violated some terms. He was alone. So he goes up on the prison newsletter, right? And he says, okay, he wants someone who's quiet, you know, someone who's observant, someone who's shomer mitzvot, of course, except for one mitzvah. And then, of course, he says, no, I don't want to sit with any of those criminals, you know, like Perez or Balin. You know, he wants a real cellmate. And this week we had a big event, was the fire in the Migdal Shalom, right? Right? The Migdal Shalom. Everyone know this? In Tel Aviv, right? You guys know the story, right? On the 23rd story, there was a fire, and of course the internal generator didn't work, and the Israeli fire department can't reach the 23rd floor, so the building starts getting consumed. Now, you know, and if you know the history of the building was on this Herzliya gymnasium, which was a lovely building. So everybody was hoping that this monstrosity was burned to the ground, right? So we could say Shalom Migdal, but it didn't happen, and it's still there. And Bibi came back this week, you know, with his terms of Shotef plus Tishim, right? He's going to get 90 days of no building, okay? And you know, he says, I hope with this we put our long-standing disagreement with the Americans behind us. You know, and how's he going to get this through? He's going to get a bunch of F-35 stealth aircraft, and of course he's going to promise a ride to every little kid and their brother to allow them to get through. And of course a bomb is the usual. But how can he build 1,000 apartments? You know, he needs 2,000. That way no one's going to remember my electoral disaster. Anyway. So we had one of the news items this week was this usual French perfidy, in which they're trying to get this contract in California, right, to build these trains, okay? So one of the terms that the California legislators said was that they had to fess up to their compliance in the Shoah with bringing the Jews to the death camp. So what did they, how did they make amends? That they promised a return ticket to anyone who was in the death camp and couldn't make their way back, so they're even going to give the return ticket to their children. I mean, this is the usual French response, right? You know, and this week in Paris, they admitted to this big bedbug problem, right? So yeah, Parisians, they're cool with, 500 years without taking a shower, now the bugs have come back to bite us in the butt, No big deal. But actually, the funny news was, we have a Brit in the audience here, and the Brits and the French signed a mutual defense pact for 50 years, okay? I don't know about you, but I would be very embarrassed to sign a defense pact with the French. I mean, do you guys know anything about the French army, right? How many gears in a French tank? 1 forward, 5 in reverse, how many men does it take to defend Paris? They don't know, it's never been done, How many, you ever go up on eBay, right? French rifles never been used, only dropped once, Or why is the Champs-Élysées tree line, right? So the Germans can march in the shade. These are the people you're signing a 50-year French pact. They used Exocet missiles in the Falkland War. They fought the French 4 times in World War II. Whatever. No respect these Brits have. But the Brits do have a cause to be happy, as you know, because they're going to have a wedding. Yes, indeed, right? William Wales Tudor, whatever his name is. Anyway, he's going to marry Kate Middleton, right? And everyone's happy about this. I hope you're going to go to the wedding. You're paying for it. And, is this going to work? Of course, nobody really knows, right? She's smart and attractive and hardworking, one of the qualities of the British royal family. And of course, the wedding is set for August 3rd next year. No date yet on the divorce. But the best observation was that England really hasn't been this happy about a queen since Ricky Martin came along. I mean, it's really they really like her. She's it's a big step up for her. She's a peasant with benefits, and now she's all right. Anyway, we wish them well, and of course. In America now, they refuse to do profiling, so they get increasingly invasive, as you board the plane, they used to go through your underwear when it was in your luggage. Now, of course, they go through it when it's on you, it's really, and then they charge you a $15 enjoyment fee for this, and it's really, people are worried their pictures are going to show up on the internet, but, without pictures like that, there is no internet, it's really bad news, and there was this hero in San Diego, right, he refused to get pat down, it's not a big deal with me, I only get a little worried when the guy's looking at you do me, that's sort of a little weird, but, you get through it, and, and it's, getting on a plane, I had more fun than you did in high school, I mean, whatever, it's not for everybody. At JFK, they started giving out inoculations, right? You see the way they manage their airplanes, right? You certainly want them in charge of something else, right? It's like former General Stanley McChrystal joined the board of JetBlue, right? This is a guy who was looking for Bin Laden for 10 years and he couldn't find him, right? This is the guy you want looking for your luggage? I mean, doesn't anybody know anything? Right, so this is a big week in America, right? It's Thanksgiving this week. And so the day before Thanksgiving, all these travelers are going to do this opt-out plan, where they're not going to get the pat down because, they feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. But of course, isn't that what Thanksgiving is about? Spending a day with your relatives so you can be embarrassed and uncomfortable. In America, right, they're expecting 42 million people to drive to Thanksgiving. And of course, by the time they get there, 30 million of them are not going to be talking to each other. Anyway, Obama was doing a lot of flying lately. He was on, Air Force One term, and he flies first into India, right, because that's where all the jobs are, and then, of course, he flies into China, because that's where all their money is, and then he goes to Indonesia and South Korea and Japan, looking for his birth certificate, and he just couldn't find it anywhere, And he's in India 2 days, of course, and they accuse him of being a Hindu, And it was sort of, and he had to cut it short because for the second time the Democrats go up in flames because he had his plane got encompassed by ash. Anyway, the trip was basically a disaster. The Kenyans said, you know what, you can have his birth certificate. But for him, it wasn't so bad, right? He negotiates this big deal with India. He gets them on the Security Council, and he got his $15 visa late fee canceled. So it was really, for him, it was a pretty good trip. Of course, he's trying to get everybody to forget the disastrous election last month, right? Where the voters, they said, hell with hope, we just want change. The Democrats spent a year getting out the vote, right? So the voters got their election and said, you know what, we voted, now you get out. That's the way the Democrats felt, the way the voters felt. How can you tell it's a winner? Because the Democrats are, of course, in hibernation, And this week, Nancy Pelosi, right? She's going to be the old Speaker of the House, right? Of course, who better to lead a minority party than someone who made them the minority party? She had a party to celebrate this, right? You were registered at Bed Bath, and don't blame me, right? And of course, and then she was smiling from ear to ear, right? And of course, for her, that is no mean feat, the way they pulled back her ears. But whatever. Obama had a good time, and the Obama and Bush both wrote books, right? Okay, this is such a topsy-turvy world, right? Because Obama wrote a picture book, and Bush wrote a 500-page memoir, right? It just doesn't work, okay? Because here Obama writes this book for a picture book for kids. Now, books for kids are supposed to have morals, right? And Obama is not good on this. I guess he's such a preachy type. Like a good kid book with morals is Green Eggs and Ham, right? Okay, what is the moral of that book? Is that you can eat spoiled meat, right? And that's a good book with morals about it. Okay, and Bush, of course, he's just out in his own world, right? He goes on this interview and he says, yeah, when I was young, drunk, I did some stupid things. Well, how many of us haven't had a few drinks and invaded Iraq? This is like normal behavior, and he's happy that he's out of Washington, and that's certainly unanimous, he's happy that he doesn't have to think all the time. This was thinking all the time, who's he kidding here? But I must say that the book is certainly better than the presidency, so if you get a chance, you should give it a read. And the kids today, they just don't like to read, okay, right? So recently in Detroit, this guy goes into an adult bookstore, and he plops down, he buys himself a lottery ticket, and he wins $128 million in Powerball. Okay? Doesn't it show you it pays to read? Come on, what? You and your fancy internet, go and read or do something, I don't know. And of course, they just in America had daylight savings time went off, and so they added another hour to 2010. Like, this was such a good year, we need another hour. And then, of course, the daylight savings, who needs it? But in America today, daylight is about the only savings that people have, and which is why they gave them another hour, right? In Saudi Arabia, as an example, they banned Facebook, right? Because they had a rape the ankle online thing. Nobody could handle that, right? And then, of course, in America, it's a great place, right? They had this rapper, his name is Lil Wayne, okay? So he was busted on some charges, I don't know if it's still open. So he gets out of prison, right? And so who greets him but medium Wayne, large Wayne, and obese Wayne, that's the enormously obese Wayne, whatever. That's America. The last comment about America was at the University of Chicago, they came up with a study that shows that sleeping actually helps you lose weight, right? Okay. Well, this is just candy for guys, they just park themselves on the couch, I'm not sitting on the couch, I'm dieting,